Build Right is the educational division of Sparkbox, working to inspire and empower a web built right. For more information about Build Right, or to have one of our workshops at your company or event, check out buildright.io. If you'd like to have Sparkbox help you make your web better, visit csparkbox.com. In 2016, we were honored to host 6 incredible Build Right Maker Series events here in our training space. You're watching the Build Right Maker Series with Darren Kall on observing and understanding users for UX insights from May 19th of 2016. Please check out these collaborative notes taken by our attendees on the day of the workshop. We'd love to hear from you, so please stay in touch via Twitter.
Well, welcome everybody and everybody on the live stream. I want to thank Ben and our company. We've collaborated on some projects, and Ben suggested this workshop a while back, and I said, you know, this is things we only usually do for clients. So it's intact teams in a business where they all know each other, and so we kind of shaped that workshop around them. So today's an experiment, because a lot of you guys don't know each other and you're not a working team, but I'm going to get you working together to do this. So we'll learn how it goes together. All right, here's a little bit more detail on how the workshop's going to break down, just so you know what to expect. The intro and the first demo, we're going to start off getting you an idea of what we're doing, and then I hope that you guys have seen the video. I do a talk about why this is important. Hopefully they sent it out to you. Hopefully you saw it. If you have questions and answers about the why we want to connect with customers and users, I'm glad to answer them. If you don't have any questions, because like the people in the back who didn't actually watch the video, I've got questions that you can supply me with. Then we're going to actually get down to the 4 techniques. They're underlined, and I'll get into why I chose them later, but we're going to talk about structured observation, inquiry for clarity, and then later in the afternoon, talking aloud and descriptive storytelling. Mixed in there, because you're going to be interacting with customers and users, I have a session on working with people. And then what Ben was referring to is at the end of the day, I've actually got 2 people coming in who are going to be real people, quote unquote. They're going to pretend to be users. So you guys who have learned things all day long are going to get to apply those techniques to 2 innocent bystanders who we grabbed off the street. Not really. All right, and then we'll close and we'll go upstairs and have great cocktails. I've been to the parties before, and I know that's why most of you have actually come today. But we're going to get to some real stuff here in between. So for each of those 4 techniques, this is how we're going to split the time on those. I'm going to do a description. That's the time when I'm going to be doing a lot of the talking, and then it's going to transition. I'm going to get one of you guys to come up as a volunteer. We're going to act out that technique. Then I'm going to get 2 or 3 of you to come up. You're going to act it out just while I'm coaching. Right? So I'm not going to be part of the participant in that session. Then if we have time, depending on how things roll, you're going to break into small groups and practice that technique again. And this progression is you see it, you see another group experiencing it, then you do it yourself. It's just on that path to further preparing you to do it on your own. And then, of course, after each one, we want to discuss. How did you feel about it? Did you have any questions? What was the takeaway from actually doing it that was different than just hearing me talk about it? All right, so intro and first demo. Did everybody get a cheat sheet? All right, I want to make sure. All right, so these are designed for you guys to have after the workshop to refer back to everything that you heard today. If you want to follow along on there, you're going to get lost because it's not structured the same way that the workshop is. Feel free to see if there's interesting things on there, and so it ties into what you learn, but it's not like it's a curriculum of today's agenda. That's your takeaway, because we're going to cover a lot of stuff, and it's always good to have a cheat sheet when you're doing these things. I had an intro story. Ben referred to stories. I like telling stories. If you saw the video, I spend most of my time telling stories. But my wife found something that I think was a better intro than the one I had planned. So believe it or not, yesterday morning, she says to me, "Oh, you got to read this article." So this is from a magazine called The Week. If you don't know The Week, it's an awesome magazine because it brings together what's happened in the last week from a multitude of sources, and it presents multiple points of view. So you don't just get this journalist view or that journalist view. It's really an awesome summary. But they have this thing called The Last Word, where they get subject matter experts, people who've had transformational life experiences, and they tell a story. And this one hits the mark for what we're going to do today. There's a well-known gerontologist named Kall, and I'm going to kill his name, Pellemer. But he studies aging, right? And I'm just going to look here, 25 years before he had this transformational experience. And for the last 10 years, he's done something very unusual for people in his field. So he studies, he conducts research, longitudinal data, sophisticated statistical analysis. He develops and evaluates programs for aging, all with the aim of improving the lives of older people. He teaches courses, he lectures on aging, he even influences policy issues affecting aging society. And for 25 years of becoming this expert, he never talked to old people. Never occurred to him. He was giving a talk, and I'm going to summarize from here on out. He was giving a talk at an Ivy League school, and one of the people in the audience said, "Well, when you talk to old people, what do they say about blah, 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 blah?" And he's like, whack! It just hit him. I've never talked to old people. So then he felt this compulsion. He's got to go find some old people, right? Because they're just data to him. Their studies, their reports, their societal trends, their economic units, they're moving back and forth. And he's like, maybe I could learn something from talking to one of these. So the last 10 years, he has learned more talking to people over 80 than he ever did in the 25 years of becoming a renowned expert. So my hope for you guys is that you don't wait 25 years, that you don't spend your entire career becoming experts and building things for people you never meet. Start now. Start now. And that's what today is all about. Have this transformation. Have that realization that there's stuff to learn. Okay. So, as Ben said, let's make this a discussion, right? We've got a lot to cover. There's a timeline, but I don't care about that if you guys are not understanding what we're talking about. So questions, comments, criticisms, just interrupt. And I make a promise about that, right? I'm either going to answer your question, I'm going to defer it and say, hey, it's in the workshop, we'll get to it, or I'm going to say, you know, we should really discuss this over a beer. This is way too deep a topic, or maybe something that should probably be discussed privately. All right, so thank you all for volunteering. When you filled out the Post-it notes this morning, you were volunteering to help me with my demos. You didn't realize that, and I know it's just a euphemism, but this is about working. This is not I'm going to do email while I'm waiting for something to happen shop. This is a workshop, and I'm going to put you guys to work. You're all going to, at some point, volunteer. Sometimes I may actually call on you multiple times. I expect, and this from the people on the live stream as well, to be taking copious notes. Not so much about what I'm saying, but when we're doing the demos, when we've got experiences going on, you're going to learn how to take massive notes. I don't care if you take them on your laptops or other devices. There's paper provided for you as well. The thing is, note as much as you can. Because again, it is experiential. The only way you're going to actually acquire the things that we're talking about today is by doing them. All right, so first demo. I need 2 people. So this is how it works. We're going to take Sarah and Jerry. Can you come on up? Yeah, sorry, there's only one. There's only one. All right. So what I want you 2 guys to do is to go into that little room over there and close the door. Not right now. Yeah, so I actually want you guys to be where you can still hear what's going on, but you can't necessarily see what's going on. Can I just leave this here in your trust? Okay. All right. Can you guys hear me? Yes. Excellent. All right. Here's the deal. The rest of you guys, we're a team, all right? And our task is to build a calendar app and calendar and scheduling. And those two people who just walked into that room that we cannot see anymore, they're our customers. Those are the people we are designing the calendar and scheduling app for. So, what do you guys know about them?
Their names.
Oh, yep, don't say them. Don't say them. All right, here's what I want you to do. Take a piece of paper and, or note, however. You're making 2 columns. I recommend calling one male, one female. And when we take notes like this in a real situation, what we often do is we don't use people's real names, and that's for reasons of privacy, for reasons of anonymity. But as a researcher, you want to make sure you remember who these people were, so you take some characteristic, like red shirt, and go, okay, that was the guy with the red shirt, and you put RS. So when RS does something or says something, a little RS is on there, and so on and so forth. And I'm going to ask a bunch of questions. I want you guys to yourselves, write the answers to the questions down in your 2 columns relative to the male and the female customer. All right, so we're going to start with demographic questions, simple things. And I want you to shout out, I'm guessing, when you're guessing. If you know something, just write it down. But if you're guessing, I want you to say, I'm guessing. Okay? What are their names?
Sarah.
Don't say them out loud. Who can't follow instructions? Kat. All right. That's Kat. Remember, when she gets up for her volunteering later, we're going to have some fun. Zach. Oh, no. Yep. Shh, shh, shh. Don't give it away. Don't give it away. I just want you to put their names down for now. Okay? All right. Oh, how tall were they? Guessing. All right. What were they wearing? Someone's really observant. Notice that they were wearing clothes. Very good. Who was that? Guessing, guessing. This side of the room seems more confident, or you're just quiet. Were you guessing on the clothing? Guessing? Glasses, beards, jewelry. Write it down. Was anybody wearing glasses? Are you guys guessing, not guessing? Guessing, guessing. They married. Not to each other. Total guessing. Okay. Kids? How old are their kids? Guess, guess, guess. What do they do for a living? Guessing, guessing. They rent or own the place they live? Guessing. Leisure activities? What do they like to do? You guys are not writing anything down. You have to write something down, right? Answer or not, guess or not, look at them, think about them, make something up. What groups do they belong to? Okay, what marketing segment that your company has designed do they belong to? Born before 1945? Baby boomers? Gen X? Gen Y? Gen Z? All right, forgive me, right? I realize these are really unfair questions, right? Yeah. Okay. And, you sit there and think, well, I barely had a moment to see them. How am I supposed to guess all these things about them? And then you're pondering, why is he asking us this stuff? This has nothing to do with a calendar app, right? Right. Someone's shaking their head no. Because those basics, those demographics give you tags. They give you buckets that you can assign things to. Oh, they have kids? They have different scenarios of need for calendar and scheduling apps than someone who doesn't. Oh, they're of a particular age, they're going to have different activities than someone of a different age. So all of those things are relevant, but all of those things are one step away from a calendar app. So I've been asking you the wrong questions, right? Let's get specific. Let's look at calendar app questions now. And I'm not going to read these all out, but tell me if you're guessing. How many calendars do they have? What devices do they interact with? How many people use their calendars? Do they manage someone else's calendar? All of these things are relevant for you to make design decisions. And I'm guessing you're guessing on all of these because they're locked off in a room. You guess an awful lot. How much of your jobs day to day is doing what we just did? Now you're building a web page for a college. Now you're trying to determine what a financial enterprise procurement dashboard looks like. And you guess day in and day out. All right, Jerry, Sarah, come on back. Let's see how we did. Oh, wait, glasses, beard. So, I want you guys to help out the audience. Let's see. What are your names? Sarah. Okay. I'm 6 feet tall. How tall are they? Oh, Mike. Yeah. It's on. All right. There you guys go.
Hi.
What were they wearing? Did anybody get it right? You know what? I've got a way to do this. Everybody stand up. All right. Now, when you got something wrong, I want you to sit down, and we'll see who the last person standing is. All right? So let's start at the top. Their names. Who got their names wrong? Sit down.
So sad. So sad.
We lost
happening.
half the room. All right. All right. How tall are they? Now, who thought they were as tall as they are? I see a couple more people. Phoebe's not sure what she remembered. Okay. Okay. Average. Okay. So we have 4 people still standing. Okay. What they were wearing? 3 people standing. 2 people standing. 1 person standing. I haven't even asked more questions. This is great. Glasses, beards, jewelry. Ricardo, did you get that right? Okay. Okay. Married? Any symbols of marriage?
But I am married.
Okay, okay. Do they have kids? Did you get that one right? Do you know both these people? Why are you still standing? All right. You know what they do for a living? Okay. Rent or own where they live?
I didn't answer that.
You didn't answer it. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Okay. So here's the point. Here are 2 full, real human beings with rich information, with backgrounds that would potentially be really useful to you in the decisions that you're trying to make as you build products for them, and you've been guessing. How does it make you guys feel? You're about to buy a product that people guessed who you were.
I'm not buying from these people.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
All right. Good job. All right. So, how does that make you feel? Let's just discuss it for a moment.
I felt like I didn't want to make assumptions because there were real people here in the room instead of just a nebulous customer X.
Okay. Good point. She said she felt a little uncomfortable making assumptions about people because they were real people right here in the room. So that, I'm taking, means that it's okay to make assumptions about people you don't see. It's easier. It's absolutely easier. And we're comfortable with it because we do it all the time. But now, just that little twist. Oh my gosh, there are real people on the end of my product. Maybe that should embarrass you enough not to make assumptions about all the people that you build things for. Ricardo.
And that's why I personally don't believe And that's why I personally don't believe really or worry about doing this personas thing. I just don't. It's just the ideals profile of a certain point in time of a person that is going to use your product in a specific, very controlled set of circumstances. So that's not close to reality as it needs to be, so I just don't believe in personas approach.
So Ricardo's saying he doesn't believe in the approach of using persona, and I'm going to provide just a little twist on that. I think that there's value in doing both. Persona are a way of us aggregating and communicating what the team is thinking more than it is a representation of truth. And in that way, it serves a real purpose. If you have real experience with real people, it's a lot more valuable than some aggregated set of assumptions that goes into building a persona. As persona live on, I worked on a project for 8 years, and we started off with 3 persona. And by the end of the 8-year period, we had 52 separate persona. The 3 just kept dividing as we learned more. And it was based on data accumulated over 8 years. And based on 8 years of studying people, those persona, way more valuable than ones that your team makes up and throws away, after a month. So, different.
Under those circumstances, I think that under those circumstances and the story you just said, it makes total sense, don't get me wrong. Trying to think a bit about my experience in the past with personas is maybe what happened most of the times was that I was given
Yes.
these documents with personas already built.
Yeah.
And I wasn't part of that process, so is what I'm thinking. It's just hard for me to believe that these guys were entirely right.
Yeah.
And I wasn't part of that experience.
So he's touched on a very important reason why I'm out getting more people to meet with customers. Because Ricardo mentions maybe the personas he's been experienced to, he doesn't trust them. He doesn't have any confidence in them because he wasn't part of making them happen. And I think that we are all, in many ways, disenfranchised from those decisions. When you work with any group of any size, it becomes someone's role to determine what features go in, who are the customers, what do they do. And the extent that you trust them is the extent that you trust the product that they're handing you. In this case, a persona, but in other cases, requirements documents and things like that. When you become an observer, when you have a solid foundation and you can contribute to those discussions, you get a seat back at the table, right? You don't have to just take that persona. You can challenge that and go, well, I was observing Sarah the other day, and that persona is wrong. That is not what she needs from a calendaring app. And, I forgot. I wrote continuum up here on the board. A lot of the things I'm going to talk about today are expressed along a continuum. So persona is a great example. The personas that you're given, way over here, right? You don't know what they went, what they did, what went into making them. And then, ones that you trust, ones that you participate in, it moves up that continuum of trust. Cool? All right. Other observations? Yes?
So, you talk about how you went from 3 personas to 52, and I
Yes.
just wonder, sometimes when you're creating a product, can that just convolute or overcomplicate you trying to satisfy 52 different personas?
So the question was, in my story, I talked about going from 3 persona to 52. And doesn't that just overcomplicate what you're trying to achieve with the product? In some cases, it probably would, not in this case. We were trying to make a mass market product, a product available to anybody. And we tried to wrap our heads around that and said, well, we can't make a product for everybody. So who are our main targets on this? And for V1, our first version, we had, oh gosh, this is a number of years back, and I think I still remember the personas' names. It was Patrick was the dad. I can't remember the mom's name, but the young boy was a 12-year-old boy we were aiming for. It was Toby. Oh gosh, I can't remember her name. But anyway, it was a mom and a dad and a son. And we built all our features around that. We did our research around that. We launched the product, and it was aimed for those people. We started getting some pretty clear feedback that one of our main users was young girls. But we had aimed at young boys. So we made a mistake, and we're like, okay, our audience is not who we thought they were. And we we made a Tobet. We made a Toby and a Tobet, and then it just evolved from there, and we realized, well, okay, our Patrick, we need an Andrew, because Patrick is, flashy cars and really into things that Andrew was more studious, and so it evolved. And in the end, each one of those segments got features and offerings and services that was valuable for them because it evolved naturally. So I don't know if that helps. We had another product for IT. We had 30 persona based on roles, size of companies. You lay the matrix out, and they needed different tools. All right. So the point, right? We're usually blind to our users. We're way too accepting of making assumptions and feeling comfortable making assumptions. But as you can see, we, not just you guys, we're all really bad at guessing. And it's really not good enough, as Ricardo pointed out, to take someone else's list of what's going on. It's about personally making the connection yourself, taking those learnings, and doing things with them that you uniquely bring to the situation. And this is why I stress that the whole team should be going out, because you and the person next to you are going to bring different things into the situation, and you're going to see things and have ideas that nobody else will, because they don't bring your experiences. So there's a basic pattern. You connect with users, you pay attention, you try and notice everything you can about them. You focus on creating hypotheses, what you think is going on, and then you seek information to get confidence in those hypotheses. You reduce the uncertainty around, I think this is what's going on. All right. So I know we sent out the link to the video about why you should be doing this. I don't know how many of you actually saw it, but does anybody have any questions from the motivations why this is valuable, why this is important to do? Now's our chance to kind of go over that. All right, I came prepared. After these conversations that I have, these presentations, I get some questions over and over again. You know that there's a field that does this full-time, user research. Inside user experience, there are people who focus only on getting information like this from users. If that's your course, if that's where you want to go, that's great. I fully support it. But I want to make sure that everybody else doesn't feel they need to become a user researcher to do what I'm teaching you today. All right? You don't. Wait, no. I'm actually discouraging you from becoming a user researcher. Let's take it one step farther. And some of the reasons are that we need you doing the jobs you do today. In your career, in the thing that you're already deep into, in the expertise that you bring forward, you will do that better if you also connect with customers and users. This is not meant to be, soliciting you and trying to convert you and say, hey, being a user researcher is way cooler than what you do. It's probably not, right? But it is a great tool to have in your pocket. I do want to give you a couple cautions along with that. There's a continuum, and even after today, I encourage you, if you really like this stuff and you want to go into user research or you just want to get better at it, there's a whole bunch of information you can go keep moving up that continuum and get better and better at it. But right now, after this day that we spend together, you really shouldn't put a shingle out in front of your cube and say, hey, I'm a user researcher, right? Because that will misrepresent the depth of what you're going to learn today. You should also not think of it as, I'm going to replace the user researcher, right? Because then they'll get mad at me for trying, set you up to take their jobs away. Because what they do is way more than what you'll learn today. The practice of user research, people spend their whole careers trying to get better and better, trying to be more bias-free, trying to find nuances of techniques. There's a depth there that I welcome you to step into, but you should understand the things that you bring back today from what you're going to do are insights, and that's awesome. But the user researcher has insights, and they have data, and they trump. They win. You're going to beat all those people who guess, because now you have insights. But remember, there's someone else down the line. If you're out with a user researcher, you're augmenting what they do. You're participating. If they're good at what they do, they'll start embracing your participation, and they'll start seeing how you can work together, and it's a dynamic that makes their job easier. So rather than a threat, you're actually helping them out. Little bit about why these techniques and not other user research techniques. There's dozens of techniques that you could learn. Some of these actually require more education to step into than a one-day workshop's going to get you. Building surveys. I've been making surveys for way too many years. I still struggle with it. And there are people who are survey experts. And I'll go to them and I'll say, I made this survey. How am I doing? Right? What did I get wrong? And they'll just shoot it up. No, you should never do this. It should always be that, and so on and so forth. I even, in graduate school, took a whole semester course on the construction of surveys and forms. And I'm still not good enough at it, right? So I want to give you things. The things that I've selected today are things that you can hear today, do today, and use tomorrow. So it's that curb, right? You get over a speed bump and you're doing these things. The second thing is, these are the activities that require the least of you when you are interacting with users. There's some that, the facilitator is super involved in doing a lot of different things. You're going to be minimally involved, but keeping things going, you're still going to be able to extract those insights. And the third thing is that they are the least invasive techniques. They are the techniques that interfere least with real people doing their real jobs, which is what you want to see. You want to see things that are as real as possible. So those three reasons. Wouldn't it be faster just to interview people? Yeah, of course. But interviews are, again, one of those things that are very touchy. They take a lot of skill to do interviews correctly, and interviews totally blow real people doing their real jobs. All right, oh yeah, this is a cute one. I keep talking about the whole team going out to observe users, and I forget that could be interpreted as 20 people watching one person. And it slams me every time somebody asks this question. No, you never want to do that. You never want to overwhelm people. It's intimidating enough to have somebody shadowing you and taking notes behind your back while you're doing your regular job. Imagine if 20 people came into your job today and said, hey, no, just do what you're doing. We'll just mutter among ourselves and take notes. No, not happening. Are the 4 techniques separate, or can they be used together? They're in the order they're in because they build. The first one is the foundation, the structural one, observation. And then each technique after that interferes a little more, gives you a little bit more insight into what's going on. It's like peeling the onion. So yes, there is a reason why they're in this order. Do you have to use them in this order? Today? Absolutely. Tomorrow, when you're on your own, you'll get a feel for it. You mix them up. You know when it's time to transition, when you've learned enough. But starting out, I highly recommend just do them and do them in order. Do it that way for a while until you feel confident, and then you can plug and play. All right, I'm going to skip these. If you haven't seen the video, it's well worth going back to see the reasons why and some of the roadblocks, the miserable excuses that some people come up with for not doing this. Yes, Ricardo.
Hey, Darren, I have a question.
Yes.
I was picturing myself having somebody shadow me. And let's say I'm doing my work and they're taking notes, and I just saw one person. I would be honestly curious to know what they wrote down, what their notes were.
Yes.
Do you meet with the person at the end, hey, this is what I did, to give them a feedback, kind of a respectful way of letting them shadow
Yes.
them, look,
Yes.
this is what I got. Do you,
Yes.
with the person?
So
that
Ricardo's question also starts with a story. And he said he imagined that people, shadowing him while he's doing his work, he'd be curious, right? What are they writing down? What are they observing? And asked if when we're doing this with real people, do we do that? The answer is yes. And you'll see later, you start with explaining to people exactly what's going to happen. You want to be as open as possible and say what you're interested in, what you're taking notes on, and we'll practice that. And then at the end, when you're thanking them for doing this, you do a little debrief. You ask them how they felt about it. You don't necessarily show them your notes because some of those out of context could be, embarrassing, right? Like, gray shirt has no idea where the search button is, right? Could have been one of my notes. But what I say to you is, I learned a lot. I saw this, I saw that. That's been particularly useful. It gave me this idea. So it is, in a way, debriefing them on the experience and making them understand that you got something valuable, and that's another way of thanking them. Yeah, we'll do it. All right. So I'm just going to check my time schedule here, see how we're doing. Look at that. Cool. We are 4 minutes early, so we're just going to stand here for a while. Okay, no, we're going to start with structured observation. And observation is one of those things that has its continuum. There are many different ways to do observation of customers and users. I am only showing you one way. I happen to show you the way I like to do it. I'm showing you the way that I think has worked for me. I encourage you to learn this way, but then find your own way. Play with it. Learn more. See what things you can learn from other folks. And when we get to note-taking, I'm going to give you an example of my own personal idiosyncratic way of taking notes during observation. And I actually thought there's like 7 different forms supported by research and different ways of collecting data. I don't use any of them, but find them. See if there are things that work for you better, because it's all about what works for you, because you're going to be taking a lot of notes. Okay, all of those techniques, all of the ways of taking notes, share in common some very basic pieces. You're paying attention. You're paying attention in a way that's different from the way you go through your life day to day. Because most of us do things, maybe we're focused on the future, maybe we're focused on the past, maybe we're off somewhere deep into the code. All of those things take you away from paying attention to the current moment. When you observe, you are paying attention to this current moment as much as you possibly can. Then you are organizing what you see. Most of the time, our experiences just flow by us, and we feel them and pieces stick and other pieces don't. You're going to do something unnatural. You're going to try and organize all of those things. Then you have to go and make sense of it to understand it, and along the way, you have these insights. You're making unique combinations of the things you observe. And then, of course, if you're going to put all this effort in, you better be doing number 5, which is where you're doing something useful with the things that you learn. So those are the commonalities between what I'm going to show you and other forms of observation. So a couple of things. Observation is not seeing, right? You're all here. You're all seeing me, right? But there's something more to observation. It's watching with a purpose. So we'll get to this a little more in depth, but you have to have a goal. You have to have a question. You have to have something to reflect on. You have to have this purpose guiding why you're doing the observing. And think of it as a filter, because you can't be observing everything that's going on. And you can't consume it, and you can't take notes on everything that's going on. But if you have this filter, if you are looking at, let's say, workflow, and all you're paying attention to is, when does this person transition from this chunk of work to that chunk of work? When do they hand it off to someone else? When does that person do what they need to do? then you can focus in your observations. But just as likely, you may only be interested in their calendaring behavior, or you may be interested in their emotional states when they're doing things. You have to pick a goal. And observation is not passive, right? It's not, oh, I'm just going to sit back like I watch TV and learn everything there is about. No. Users don't work that way. You have to acquire things. And this is where note-taking comes in handy. It's useful to have a goal, but it's not just information that you want. You want stories. You want focus. You want to be able to put things down as they happen so that you can reflect on them later, because a lot happens. The more you observe, the more you see happening, you're going to get lost, right? There's too much to just consume in the moment. And there's a lot of opportunities later with reflection where you want to go back to those notes and find something useful. All right, so I've already told you you're taking notes. They should be copious notes, right? They should be everything that you can possibly get down in the time that you have available when you're watching people. There's also another benefit to doing this. People, Ricardo, I'm going to keep using you as an example, who get conscious of the fact that you are observing them. And if you only took notes when they were doing something of interest to you, they're going to catch on to that. And they're going to go, what did I just do? I did something important because that guy just took a note. I'm going to do it again. Hey, look at that. He did it again, right? And subconsciously, it's an approval. I must be doing the right thing because he's taking notes again, right? That's great. Instead, if you're taking notes all the time, it gives them no information, none whatsoever. They don't know if they've done something good. They don't know if they've done something bad. It's just another thing for them to ignore. People blur. I was explaining to Taylor earlier. I recognized him, went over, said it was good to see him again. I had no idea where I'd met Taylor, right? I gave a bunch of talks over the last 5 months. I know he was at one of them. I have no context. Imagine if you saw 8 people in a day and you were looking at them, studying what they were doing, and you do this 5 days, 10 days. How many people have you seen? Who were they? No, the guy with the red shirt, right? So notes help you pull that back, and you go, oh, yes, right. Taylor was at that talk, and this is his question. Phil.
I guess part of this, when it comes to taking notes, maybe we get on into this, but just like, what kind of things should we be watching for? Like, if we're missing things as we're going along, like, what are like the key points? Like, in copious amounts of notes, like, you can start doing all these things, and you're going to miss like 5 minutes of something that occurred because you're writing.
Yes. Phil was asking, so you're taking these copious notes. What's the guidance? What are we taking notes on? What's important? And there's actually 2 answers, and we'll get to them in more detail. But one of them is, yeah, I'm going to help you structure what you're looking for, and you're going to have a cheat sheet, and you're going to make one up for each time you go out because your purpose changes. But the other thing I'm going to stress is that you should, if it's at all possible, go with someone else. 2 people taking notes. One of them may be talking to the user. They're going to miss things. You're taking notes. You're missing what's going on right now. And then you build an image together. Not 20, 2 people. All right. But remind me, we're going to touch on more detail. All right. So notes are not random, right? Notes shouldn't ramble. They'll be very hard to use later if you don't put some kind of structure into them. There's many ways to do that, and get ready. This is a drawing of how I take my notes. And Ben has told me not to get in front of one of the cameras, so I'm going to point from way over here. So at the very top of the very first sheet, I write where I am, the date, and what project it is. Up on the top, I put the participant code name, like RS for red shirt. A lot of times we take photographs of the people or videos of them doing these things, and then that's a real good visual cue as to who I was talking to. I don't say Philip, I say guy with the gray hat, right? Things like that. And I put page numbers, because when you take copious notes, and I still do it by hand, I have found actually that while I can type faster than I can write, I can do things on paper more easily. And maybe if you've got, stylus and you're taking notes there digitally, that's great. But I hop back and forth in my notes, and that's where typing falls apart for me. And I reserve the far left-hand side for tags, and the middle section is where I put the body of my notes, and I leave a blank space on the side because I go back so often that I insert notes on notes that I've had before, and I need space to do that. Contradictions where I've learned new things, or I start ticking how many times I actually saw him do that thing I saw him do in the very beginning. Just my way of doing it. I use dashes for each and every separate observation so I know where my chunks are, paragraph chunks. If it's a significantly important thing, I'll put down the time, because if I have a video, I want to be able to go back to the timestamp and say, I saw this thing happen, and now I can pull it up on the video and share it to other people. Whenever I have a question, I want to ask the user, but I'm not asking it right then. I'll put a Q, write my question, and then I'll leave space underneath because I'm going to put their answer right under that question. If I have an insight, that's important to me. I call it out with an arrow. It's like, I just learned something, right? And that's Darren. That's not something that someone did. That's not a question I have for them. That's my own, this guy would really benefit from a doodle-doodle-dip. And it goes. If I have a hypothesis, right? Ben is completely lost. No, I wouldn't say Ben, right? I'd say bearded. Guy with big muscles. If he wants me to say guy with big muscles, I would say guy with big muscles. GW, we'll say guy with, right? Is totally lost. And then if they have a particularly bad time, if they're making errors, making mistakes, if there's a pain point in the process, I put an asterisk, and that hops out to me, like, here's a place to learn something, here's a place to solve someone's problems. So that's just how I structure it. This, believe it or not, I had to work really hard to make this as legible as it is. I have spaghetti for handwriting. So this is purposely trying to show what my notes might look like. He said these things, his wife has access to the calendar. I wonder, do the kids ever write to the calendar? I don't ask him, he's telling his story, but I'm gonna ask him later. I had an insight. This guy wastes a lot of time checking 3 different calendars, and what he's mostly looking for are conflicts. He didn't tell me, he didn't complain. It's my observation and insight to what's going on. This guy may not even know how much time he's wasted. He's just kind of accepted it. So that's what I'm talking about. Star is pain, but that's just pain points. Yeah, this guy makes mistakes. This guy, he's really frustrated by that. Oh my gosh, it was great. We did a medical clinic once, and every time somebody in the chain of events needed the medical records and the medical records weren't there, got these asterisks. When we played that back to our client and played it back to the clinic, they were astonished how many red asterisks there were in this. No one had known how many times people were frustrated by not having the medical records where they were needed at that moment. So asterisks work. It's like it draws attention. So I'm not trying to sell asterisks. I don't make any money off asterisks. But, it just seems appropriate to me to say, there's pain there. Okay. Prompting questions. As Philip was pointing out, you need prompts. Beginners especially, you should have a list of prompts of what things you want to know from this observation. Maybe today your whole focus is behaviors. You don't really care about their emotional responses. You don't really care how they perceive things. You just want to know, what are they doing? What did they just do? Could they have done this a different way? All behavioral kind of things. So you make up a prompting list before you go out. Because when things start happening, it's the fire hose, right? And you're going to be lost. You got your list. That's your confidence list. That's your comfort. That's your like, okay. I'm not paying enough attention to prompt number 5. So just a little reminder. Eventually, you won't need that. You'll internalize it. You'll get a feel for it. This is an observation, and it'll just be second nature. But in the beginning, I mean it. A written out, typed out, otherwise available list on your notes, very useful. And again, plan beforehand and make them specific to what you're observing. All right, here are some hints. There's 3 P's I like to stress when you are observing. If you can, pay attention to someone's performance, and that's their behaviors, the actions they're taking. Their perceptions, if you can glean any of their thoughts or their opinions as they go along. And lastly, their preferences. If they make choices, they're expressing a preference. If there's a way they do it among many ways available, that's a preference. If they have emotional attachments to the thing that you're providing, or emotions not in all favor towards the thing, those are preferences. They're letting you know things. 3 Ps are good guides. If you don't have specifics, you should always be looking for the 3 Ps. But here's some other ones. The demographics that we had in the beginning, and we saw that these could be relevant to even calendar apps, which seem abstracted from some of those demographics. What are they doing? Why are they doing that? How did they do that? Did they have anything worthy of an asterisk going on? And pathways through the product. Oh, you know, one of the other things is errors and error recovery. It's often intriguing to see someone stumble, but it's even more intriguing to see how do they get back? How do they get out of the problem they're having? Do they go back up in the hierarchy and go down through it again to another place? Do they abandon it? Do they ask for help? All sorts of things can cascade from looking at recovery rather than the error. All right, guessing. I know I made fun of everybody guessing in the beginning, but when you observe, you're guessing. And that's okay, right? We guess a lot, but now we're going to guess, we're going to build hypotheses, we're going to try and find evidence that our guesses are right or wrong. And in fact, you're going to be wrong more often than not. Let's say that someone is working on a product and you see them do something and they shake their head, right? What you write down is they shook their head. You don't write down, oh, they're frustrated with this. Your hypothesis might be that they are frustrated with this, but your observation was they shook their heads. And that is because you don't really know at this point why they were shaking their heads. They're like, oh, I wish I could be done with this. They didn't have anything to do with what was going on. So you mark your guesses, you separate those guesses from your hypotheses, and you just try and drive it all down as much as you can towards truth. Interfering. I mentioned interfering earlier. I've set the techniques up on a continuum, least interference, most interference, and even within that, you're going to have to get a feel for how much you are biasing what's going on. Sneaking up behind Ricardo and taking notes, right? It's fine until he knows I'm there. And then I've biased him. And then he's self-conscious. And you try and put people at ease, and you try and understand what the ideal situation would be as opposed to what it is. Ideally, you'd watch users and they'd never know, right? You would see all their actions. You'd have access to all their thoughts. You can do this and have conversations with your observation partner and not influence what's going on. Realistically, that's never going to happen. You don't get that kind of access. So even when you first do an observation, you are doing something that will cause it to be less than perfectly natural. And that's okay. You cannot observe without creating some biases. Let me just point out here, there are hundreds of effects and biases. These 22, 23 that I have up here are from a talk I give to user researchers about the most common biases that are introduced by user researchers, right? So there are things that we do every day that user researchers try to weed out of their behaviors, right? People try their whole careers. I do it all the time where I do something and someone I'm working with goes, you know, you probably shouldn't have said that, or probably shouldn't have that because that's such and such an effect, such and such a bias. Ricardo?
Can you explain a couple of those? I'm curious.
You know what? Why don't we save that for the end? Let me just see how I'm doing on time, because...
It's not over here then.
No, we could, maybe it's over beer. I don't know. Yeah, it's over beer.
Okay.
Because you know why? I listed a few more. 2 beers. And literally, these are things that happen every day in our normal lives, and that's okay. We are bias machines. Human beings are set up by their nature to be biased. It's okay. It's how we are what we are. It makes us human, but it also makes us great. If we weren't biased in these ways, we would not be what human beings are. So there's nothing wrong with this. It's only wrong in this context. You don't want to trigger these biases and have these effects because it taints the information you bring back. Is that clear? You're screwing things up. You're bringing back the wrong answer. You're going to base your design with more confidence than you did when you were guessing, and you're basing it on an untruth. So, as much as you can, try and push the biases down. The techniques that I'm going to show you today are about reducing that. Seeing the unseen. Now, in the beginning, this may or may not come to you naturally, but a lot of what you're going to do is try and learn to read people. If someone is uncertain about something, that means something, right? They're not even maybe going to express it. They take a little longer to do an action than they did the other 3 times. That's an opportunity for you to probe. It's something for you to notice and say, what's going on here that I don't see? Minor references sometimes reveals long-held beliefs, and they say it casually because they think, well, I think this, everybody thinks this. This isn't information I need to tell them, but it comes out. We were watching this, we were watching a woman who was top in her office in this very competitive office. Maybe it didn't have to be, but it was. And she's talking about how she does everything, and we noticed that she did this, right? And then she went back, and then she did this, and then she went back, right? And at one point we asked why she did that, and she goes, that's just the way it is. And we're like, what do you mean that's the way it is? And she goes, well, everybody in the office hates it because your font is too small. Everybody in the office? Yeah, that's no problem. They had accepted it. It was a long-held belief. She was doing this thing. Who knew? We were heroes that day when we showed her that it was possible to make the fonts bigger on everything on her computer. But that's seeing the unseen. It's not just about what they're doing or what they're saying, it's what they're not doing. It's those odd moments where you go, oh, there's something else going on here. Now, making sense of what you observe. I kind of portray it like this magical thing. You go, you're sitting there, insights just filling your head as you're watching observers and things. Doesn't always happen that way. You might see something when you're observing. You might learn something about what you saw when you're debriefing with somebody else who saw something. It could happen that you're not having that insight until you review the video, or maybe you're looking at the photos or your own notes. Maybe it only happens after you've seen multiple people of a diverse background doing the same thing and then something clicks. Sometimes it never happens at all, right? So I'm not guaranteeing that observations will lead to insights, but there's many opportunities. Don't be discouraged if the light bulbs aren't going off like that while you're watching. All right, so you want to put them to use. You want to share them. You want to comment on them. You want to contradict your observations. You want to contribute your ideas back to your team. You want to represent them in flowcharts. You want to draw pictures. You want to tell stories. This is not just about your own education. This is about doing something with those observations when you get back to your home team. You want to use them to become influencers. All right. As you go into this observation, I want you to do something that may be a struggle. right? I want you to be curious. Curious not just about your product, curious about users, curious about people as people, right? What are their lives? How does it influence? What do they do? Oh my gosh, look how they're different than me. I want you to be open, right? In the things that you're doing, there is no reason to kind of be the researcher with a big white lab coat, separating yourself from the rabbit in the cage. It's opening yourself up. You're a person too, right? Explain why you're there. You're not doing any deceptions. That's very sophisticated kind of research where you're actually lying to users for a particular purpose. I'm not going to tell you to break the code of conduct here at Sparkbox and lie to people, but there are studies that require it. You don't have to. Be open. And the last one is probably the hardest of all, and that's a willingness to accept whatever you discover, right? You're going in there to learn the way it is. If the way it is that your product is horrible, you better be ready for it. You better be able to see that, or you shouldn't go at all, right? You could learn great things. You could learn horrible things. It's all part of learning. Ben.
Have you ever done observation like this, like you're describing, and the result was the product was amazing?
So Ben's question was, have I ever done an observation like this, and the result was that the product was amazing? No.
Okay. So basically,
Good,
the
yes.
last bullet point is basically you probably have made mistakes.
Oh yeah, yeah. And it's specifically your use of the word amazing, right? Because we've gone out and we've gotten great confirmation, things work, they're really good, hey, we made our goals, but amazing beyond our expectations for what we were hoping for? Never, never. So yeah, there's always something to learn. You know, I don't think there's ever a product that can't be better, that can't be tuned, that can't be improved. So yeah, most of the time you're not going out and people are devastating you with what you learn. You come back a little bruised instead of bloody. All right, so I need a volunteer. All right, who's James? Come on up, James.
That's the best volunteering system I've ever seen.
All right, so I have out here on 3x5 cards a bunch of different activities. Are you shopping for a house?
No.
Would you like to shop for a house?
Sure, why not?
No, I mean, let's find something. Shop for new clothes, a rototiller, a car. Oh, here we go. Yeah, there we go, if you need it.
All right.
You're shopping for a new house.
Sure.
Okay, so here's the situation. You're alone. You're trying to, oh, you actually don't need the microphone. We're doing structured observation. You don't get to talk. All right, so you're at the beginning of your journey, right? How would you shop for a house?
We'll just start doing it.
Yeah, just start doing it. So now, oh, you're not? Oh, yeah. Oh, no? All right. Yeah, I'm looking for the hotkey. It doesn't seem to be function F4, right? That looks like it. All right, you know what?
You just drag it over to the screen.
Yeah, but then you probably won't be able to see it. Here we go. I got an idea.
Display settings.
Ah, there you go. And is that gonna give me both? No.
Try that again. Go back down at the bottom. You know,
Was it?
go down.
You got it? You want to just do it?
You want to just mirror? Is that what you want?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, we will now watch James setting up mirroring on, everybody take notes. Good. Excellent. Okay, okay. All right, so in a normal observation, I would not be talking. I'm going to be talking because you guys are going to be taking notes. So we just talked about structuring your notes. You're not going to call him James. What are you going to call him? Green striped shirt. There you go. All right. And in this task, you are to observe everything, however you like. What did he use as a search term? Oh, look where he already knows where he wants to live. How did he decide on that community? You have a question, right? All right, so he's made a choice. Why did he choose realtor.com? He didn't type in realtor.com. He searched on the community first, so he doesn't have a preference for his vendor of information. He could have gone right to realtor.com. Okay, what was it about the house? Was it the price point? Was it the look of the house? Was it the photograph? Look at him himself, right? Look at his face. Right, he's smiling and laughing. But what you'll see is, the furrowed brow of someone who's concentrating on something, perhaps making a decision. So he's flipped up and down on the screen several times. He went down into details and he's popped up. Why? Are you guys writing this all down in your notes? Right? Come on, this is the thing you're supposed to be doing, right? As much as you can. Don't look at me, right? Take your notes. And again, now he's out of that completely. Why did he leave? Where is he going? So he totally missed the ad at the very top. Why? Does he always skip ads? Was it unappealing to him? He went right to the first entry. Now he's on the second entry. He's on homes.com. Is he bringing up the same entries as he did before? Wait a minute, the price point has changed. Did he do that? Or was that just homes.com? Oh, now he's drilling down into something specific. No, he's not. No, right? So, what's that? The buttons don't work. I've got touchscreen, touchpad, and mouse set up for you for your preferences. I don't know which way you want to do it. They're not working at all. All right, we're abandoning homes.com. So why was he doing that? It looked like to me that he was just reading the labels. You know how some people read with the mouse? But he was actually hitting failed functionality there. And there should be an asterisk there in my coding system. He wanted to do something and it wouldn't let him do it. Now he's on Zillow because he couldn't get the other one to work. If he hadn't told me that, I would not have known what was going on. I would have had a hypothesis as to why he had done that. Okay, now we're learning more about his preferences. All right, just from that refinement there. So it's interesting to see how he's going about his search. He started off hitting a site in a neighborhood, finding something of interest, burrowing down, and now he wants to actually go back out and look at the whole listing here. Because instead of going down into one detail and saying, hey, do I like this? Maybe he's looking and seeing if there's something greater he could be learning. And now he's got those, maybe he knows Beaver Creek and he's seeing where in the neighborhoods those things are coming up. All right, I see a lot of people looking. I don't see a lot of people taking notes. All right, James, stop. How much did you capture? Half a page. Anybody not have notes? Anybody just like, oh. All right, so my dialogue probably didn't help. No, it did. Right. Yeah, I know. But think of me as the little voice in your own head, right? There won't be somebody there over your shoulder going, what's he doing now? What's he doing now? Right? That's what you'll be doing. The kind of things that I was doing are what I was thinking as I saw James doing his thing. The kind of things that you do will be predicated by the list you come up with and by the things that are of interest to you. Maybe you're someone who builds sites like this to put, different properties up. Maybe you're someone who works at a search engine. The things that you're interested in will shape what you pay attention to. I think we're good, James. Thank you. Did you find anything you like?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Not moving to Beaver Creek. So, yes.
Is there a reason that you would not have James talk out loud? So I know a lot of us think
Yes, so talk out loud is our third technique today. And we'll get there, but if James was talking out loud, I mean, James would not hear me talking. James would silently be doing his own searching. It's less interference. Even the act of saying, James, think out loud, changes the whole dynamic. And he's going to report things like, well, is it okay to say this? Which would influence what he's doing. And we don't want that. Not in this phase. In this phase, it's uninterrupted, just doing what you're doing. Ricardo.
I felt that I was missing more information than I was able to get.
Yes, yes. Two things about that. One, it's annoying to have me keep pointing out what you're not doing, right?
So I was like, yeah, Darren is right, so I gotta put a mental note on that while I finish writing these letters.
Yes.
And then I went back to the note, but then you were saying about 3 more things.
Yes, yeah, absolutely,
So I was like,
absolutely. So part of it is the annoying, narration part. But part of it is there's so much going on. People doing what they're doing uninterrupted, not at your pace, they're fast. You're gonna miss things. That's why you compare your notes with Sarah's notes and Zach's notes later, and you say, hey, did you see what was going on? Did we have something important happen here? I thought I saw this. So, happens at others. I think Zach had a question.
I did have a question. So this seems to be getting into just straight up usability testing.
It is not usability testing. So your question was, this seems to be getting into straight up usability testing.
Yeah, in the sense that you would need to have cameras to visualize what they're doing, to monitor what they're doing, and using some kind of analytics to
Yep.
monitor where they're going
So-
on the screen.
So let me draw a distinction because that's very important. Usability studies, true usability studies, are structured in a way that they are controlled. I give someone particular tasks. I limit the devices that they're using. I measure things. In this observation, all I said was you're shopping for a house. He chose his own tools. He chooses his own tasks. He goes his own way. I don't measure anything. Now, at the same time, we do a usability study. It's possible to observe someone doing a usability study, use these same techniques to glean things from someone in that controlled environment. But I'm talking about a field study. I'm talking about somewhere where you don't constrict any of those things. James could have gone to his favorite realtor's website and looked at it a completely different way. I have no control over that. I want to see the way he would naturally do things. There's a continuum, right? And if field studies are over here, usability studies are over here on how much they structure and interfere. A field study is going to be more like reality than a usability study.
Yes. I guess I'm trying to frame how we're structuring or how this talk is going or how this workshop is going in the sense that it seems like it's usability testing, but then at the same time I guess it's not. Are we just focusing on field studies then? Or is it more?
So the question is this more like usability or more like field studies? It's teaching you the techniques that most apply to field studies, but you can use these same techniques in any of the opportunities to observe users. Usability studies being one of them. You could do it in a focus group. You could do it in an attribution study, right? These are the core foundational skills that you should take with you as a participant in no matter what the opportunity is to observe users. I set it up on field studies because it's the most pure. It's the cleanest. Good?
Yes, we're good.
And Christopher.
Yes. So my question is related to the last couple. I think
Okay.
given that we're trying to be as non-invasive as possible and keeping interaction with green shirt guy to a minimum, is there are there advantages to being present in the room that we would not have looking at a video of what he's doing? That we could pause, take my notes, and then hit play at my own pace.
So yeah, Christopher's question was, is there an advantage to having a video in opposed to being in the room right with green
It's
shirt
actually the
guy?
other way around. I see advantages to a video. Is there advantage to being in the room?
Okay, I got that wrong. It's the other way around. Yes, there are advantages to being in the room. This is the very first phase of our investigation with him. We're observing him. We have a 360 view of what he's doing. Hopefully we're videotaping it for later where we can pause and take notes. But as we get into the next phases, the different techniques, it is about interrupting him. It is about seeing some of the subtle things that might be lost if we were just remoting into his screen and just had a webcam view of his face. It's that continuum again. There's nothing that beats being right there with someone while they're doing it for the ability to interrupt, for the ability to have a dialogue and go back and forth, uninterrupted by time, by distance, by the remoteness of something filtering what we're seeing and experiencing. It doesn't mean you can't do it from a video. It doesn't mean you can't do it remotely. It's that continuum again.
So it's because we're going to get more interactive as we move through these steps.
We are.
I have a comment on that too.
Yes, Julie.
Context can be really important as well. So I did some observation for a B2B application, and some of the things I noticed is who has stacks of paper on their desk and what are they doing with that paper? Who has a printer on their desk, or who is walking around a lot? So just stuff like that that you observe about how they work, you can't get just from seeing their screen or even their screen in their face. You kind of need that whole environmental influences to help you get a little bit closer to how they work and what's going on around them.
Did everybody hear that? Julie was saying that there's great value in context. Seeing the situation in which James, he's not going to sit at a podium at home and search. Maybe he's in his living room. Maybe it's while he's watching television. Maybe it's in his office, which has stacks of papers. That context tells you a lot about who they are, where they're doing things, but it also can lead you to understand distractions. Maybe they jump in and out of the task because they're also monitoring a piece of lab equipment while they're searching for their house. So yeah, there's lots of opportunities to learn context. In fact, one of the first things you do when you're setting up a situation like this is ask permission to take a picture of someone's desk, their living room, where their television is. Do you mind if I take a picture of what's in your refrigerator? Right? It depends what you're researching, but those contextual cues, very, very revealing. All right. Anything else before Ben?
Just an observation.
Yeah. A hypothesis?
Maybe a hypothesis.
Okay.
It seems like you have to be a really good note taker. You got to know, you got to be fast. You got to get it down quickly. You got to know how to summarize what you're seeing in a way that you can recall later. That feels like a whole skill and maybe that's why you started us off trying to take notes. And teaching us how your method. But yeah, that seems like a key thing.
Yeah. Ben was saying it seems kind of important to be a good note taker. It's essential. Ben definitely got it right. However you've taken notes before, to do this, get better, right? Get faster, get video, get the support systems you need from other people doing it with you. Because the better your notes, the better your retrieval from those notes, the more useful your time will be spent going out and meeting with customers and users.
Is it generally preferable to do notes by hand than using a laptop?
So Zach has just asked me a very personal question. Is it better to take notes on paper or on the computer? I can only speak for me. I can't let go of paper. In all my attempts, and I've tried, taking notes in Excel. I've tried, digitally trying to capture it all. I've tried typing it. I'm just not as fluid. I don't have the flexibilities to mark things. Paper just works for me. Now, I have colleagues swear by typing. They are way faster, and they cue everything in the beginning, and then they can sort on those columns, and especially in Excel, if you're really good, you just tag in there, and then, they have way more access to it later than I do. You have to find out for yourself. Sorry. I notice you have one note on paper, so I'm guessing paper's not your way. All right, are we good for another demo? All right, I need 3 volunteers now. So let's take Drew, Zach, and Erica. All right, very quickly, one of you is searching for a home. The other 2, bring your notepads. Guess what, Zach? You're looking for a home. All right, so you can clear out his search. You can start wherever you want. And you 2 guys, tell us what you're doing like I was telling them.
At the same time?
Well, yeah. Or one of you want to do it? One, you know. So when you go out as a team, you have to figure you're going to do a buddy system some way. You're going to either double up on Zach and both do the same thing, both be the facilitators, both do it, or one of them's going to lead and one of them's going to strictly be note taker. You guys decide. Now.
Sorry.
He's the note taker. All right. So you're not talking to him because this is observation. You're telling us what we should be observing. What's he doing?
Okay.
What are the questions that occur to you?
And he went to remax.com, and now he's starting to filter through the property search. He's looking at different filters. So now he's made a selection. What was that selection? Something happened, so maybe that was a pain point. He's going back through the filter process. He's looking up Dayton, Ohio. Perhaps he is from there, lives there currently, wants to move there. Now he is waiting, and he notice how he was like using up his time with his mouse.
How's your notes going, Drew?
Now he's zooming in and out of a map, and he's
Why?
selecting.
Give me your hypothesis. Why is he doing what he's doing?
My hypothesis?
Yeah.
To possibly look for a new area to move to.
Okay.
So another pain
So,
point. He's
so normally he
obviously-
wouldn't be telling you that
Yeah.
unless he talks to himself while he's having trouble with things online.
Something just popped up, but he didn't seem to notice it. And now he's typing in another location. Now he's looking in Columbus.
Okay, why did he abandon Dayton?
Perhaps he wants to move to Columbus for a new job or somebody he
Okay.
cares about.
So Drew, did
or
you have a
family.
question on your list? Why did you go from Dayton to Columbus? Okay, trader.
Now he's filtering for prices and beds
Okay,
and
what
baths.
price did he start with? What price did he go to?
Yeah, did he start with that many baths and bedrooms, or did he filter that? Now he's clicking on an ad, trying to figure out, possibly gave up on that,
He zooms in and out a lot. Do you know what's behind that?
zooming in and out. Perhaps he's just
Zach.
trying to figure out how to use the map.
All right. So, are you guys all taking notes too? Oh, you should be.
Now he's typing in something else. He completely abandoned this site.
All right, you guys get a feel? All right, how did it feel? All three of you.
There was a lot to try and like pay attention to.
Uh-huh.
Because he was moving so quickly, like the different pace. It's not my pace, it's a different person's pace.
How is it different from yours?
How was it different?
If you were searching for home, how was what Zach did different than what you would do?
I guess I'm not like trying to actively think about everything I'm doing, I'm just naturally doing it. It's a little bit slower.
Okay. Zach? What was really going on?
I was struggling with the website. I was struggling with the computer because I'm not familiar with the computer as well. So
Sure.
like that was another thing. But then the website was terrible, and like I tried to do searches and refine it, and it just wouldn't give me. So that's why I ended up completely abandoning the site. So
Okay.
it needs work. The site needs work.
For me, I felt like Zach was doing as much as he could to make us work really hard. There might have been a little bit of bias and influence, but yeah, it was hard for me personally, with my personality, to just stay in observation and not go into the clarify.
Yes.
I want to ask some of the questions that were on my mind.
Oh, yeah.
Like
It's really hard.
why he chose to wait to do like more refined kinds of searches to later. And he started really high level at the beginning. I was really curious about that. And then switching from Dayton to Columbus was very interesting as well.
But no, you touched on a very good point. It is awfully hard to do this because you want to interfere.
Yeah.
You want to ask why. You even want to help them out. Like if you see why he's having trouble zooming, you just want to go, hey, Zach, it's really simple.
Yeah.
But you don't. right? It's self-control. It's delayed gratification. You will get a chance to ask later.
Yep.
All right, thank you guys.
Thanks for watching the Build Right Maker Series. Check out our videos from other industry leaders at buildright.io, or even better, buy a ticket and attend in person.